Welcome to today's video, where we delve into the dramatic and controversial case of Canadian criminal Philip Pynn. This is part 1 of our in-depth look at his 2011 murder trial and the events leading up to his eventual sentencing. Let's take a journey back in time and piece together the key moments of this gripping legal saga. Before Philip Pynn's involvement in the 2011 murder case, he had a history of criminal activities stemming from a troubled upbringing. His early life was marked by exposure to crime. His mother, Loretta Pynn, was one of the first female armed robbers in Newfoundland, and his father struggled with alcoholism and legal troubles.
Today she was sentenced to more time for driving the getaway car in a second armed robbery. That was something Clark had fought against. She said she might even crack under the strain of life without her family, and she asked the court for understanding.
To Mommy from Felicia, Philip, and Dad. Dad helped in college. My 2 kids at home now, I mean, I can't contact them. They don't have a telephone. So, I mean, I go, sometimes weeks without speaking to them. But if I were here in a facility in St. John's, if there was one, like the HM Penitentiary on Forest Road, I could have regular contact with my kids. Regular visits. If they have problems, I can help with.
Police say Pynn's family was involved with his earlier escape. His mother and sister were charged.
You would have had an entirely different life. I can't say what you would have had because I can't predict the future, but I know it wouldn't have been this. And he says, no, ma'am, that's not true.
I just knew that they treated me good. They did, like my whole family, my mom, my dad, like they done the best they could for us, for our family, right? And yes, they did sometimes, like, I guess sell drugs and do stuff to make money, but basically it was to provide for the family and stuff. That's the way I took it. So I took it as like, I'm lucky to have a family that would do what they got to do to provide for us.
As a youth, Pynn began engaging in petty crimes. He was first picked up for theft at a mall, where he was stealing food due to hunger. This initial encounter with the law led to further breaches of conditions and escalating criminal behavior. Pynn's home life lacked structure and guidance, contributing to his frequent run-ins with the juvenile justice system. The turning point in Pynn's criminal trajectory was his involvement in more serious offenses. By his teenage years, he had amassed numerous charges, including breaches of court orders. These early experiences with the legal system set the stage for his later involvement in high-profile criminal activities, including drug trafficking and his eventual conviction for manslaughter in the 2011 shooting death of Nick Winsor during a botched robbery. In the aftermath of the incident, Philip Pynn, along with another individual named Justin Jordan, was swiftly identified as a suspect. On July 10, 2011, just 1 day after the murder, Pynn was formally charged with second-degree murder. The community was shocked, and the media frenzy began. As the investigation unfolded, more details about the crime emerged. Authorities conducted extensive interviews and gathered critical evidence, including forensic analysis and eyewitness testimonies. By August 2011, the police had built a strong case against Pynn, who maintained his innocence throughout.
It was my fault, like it was on me. It was my whole situation.
Pynn explained he went with the intentions that he wanted his chain or his money, and stated that the gun was brought with him as a form of intimidation. Pynn then stated that when the gun was presented to the person they went to intimidate, he grabbed a hold of the gun and a struggle pursued. Pynn explains that through the struggle with the gun, it had accidentally fired and hit his friend Nick Winsor that had originally came with him. Pynn and the others run from the scene and leave his friend Nick. He states that he just wanted to get out of there, and says that it still to this day affects him and feels bad about leaving his friend to bleed out.
That still to this day affects me.
The legal proceedings began with pre-trial hearings in late 2011. These hearings set the stage for what would be a highly publicized and contentious trial. Pynn's defense team argued that he was not the primary aggressor and that the events of that night were more complex than initially portrayed. A jury has been selected in the murder trial of Philip Pynn and Lyndon Butler, who are both charged in connection with the 2011 death of Nick Winsor. Pynn and Butler are charged with second-degree murder. A pool of 650 potential jurors was whittled down to 14 in Newfoundland and Labrador Supreme Court in St. John's. On May 14, 2012, the trial of Philip Pynn officially began. The prosecution presented a compelling narrative of events, alleging that Pynn had a clear motive and opportunity to commit the crime. Meanwhile, the defense sought to poke holes in the prosecution's story, aiming to cast doubt on Pynn's guilt. In his opening statements to Justice James Adams and the 12-member jury, prosecutor David Bright painted a disturbing picture of what he believes happened on the night of July 9, 2011. Bright and fellow prosecutor Brian Casey alleged Pynn and Butler murdered Winsor with a shotgun and also tried to kill Power. Prosecutors will argue that Pynn pulled the shotgun from Winsor's pants and that Power was able to grab the barrel of the firearm. During the struggle, it's believed the gun went off, fatally shooting Nick Winsor. Butler's lawyer, Jeff Brace, said that's not what happened and said there is no evidence linking his client to the crime. Brace also dismissed Power's credibility as a witness, saying he has a criminal past, 18 convictions for possession of stolen property and trafficking marijuana, and hated Pynn. Throughout the trial, several key witnesses took the stand, including those who were present at the scene and forensic experts. The evidence was meticulously analyzed, with both sides presenting their interpretations. This phase of the trial was marked by intense cross-examinations and dramatic courtroom moments. Bright said the jury will hear that days before the murder, Pynn and Winsor went to a jewelry store and inquired about a gold chain that was purchased by Billy Power. Crown said they believe Pynn, Butler and Winsor went to Power's house the night of the murder to steal it. Bright acknowledged that some witnesses, including Power, have criminal records, but emphasized that doesn't mean they're not credible. Bright said 2 witnesses heard a loud knocking at Power's door around 10:30 p.m. on the night of the killing. One witness, Bright said, reported seeing a man standing at the door with tattoos on his face. Pynn has several prominent tattoos on his head. Bright said Power walked outside the house, locked the door behind him and walked to the garage with Pynn, where the two were joined by Winsor and Butler. Bright said Winsor had a shotgun stuffed down his pants and in his shirt. The shooting happened inside the garage, Bright said, and was captured by a surveillance camera that was outside. You'll see a flashlight up the door, Bright told jurors. You won't see the murder, but you'll certainly hear it. The prosecution said a recording from a surveillance camera shows Pynn and Butler leaving the garage with something in one of their hands, then get in a car that was being driven by someone else. The Crown has not identified the driver of the vehicle. Bright said Power will testify that a big, brawny man, matching Butler's description, hit him over the head several times with a pipe. Bright said Power flagged down 2 people to ask for help after escaping the attack. Bright also talked about what happened after Winsor was killed. You'll hear of Pynn trying to escape, Bright said. Bright said Pynn made a mysterious call to a lawyer. The next day, Bright said Pynn was arrested coming out of the lawyer's house. Meanwhile, Butler's lawyer painted a starkly different picture, attempting to shift suspicion to Billy Power. Brace said Winsor and Pynn did go to a jewelry store before the murder and they were looking for a gold chain, but he denied they were planning to rob Power. Brace also defended Pynn's actions after the alleged murder when he contacted his lawyer. Brace said it is not a crime to contact your lawyer, especially when a warrant has been issued for your arrest. Justice Adams, meanwhile, told the jury that while Pynn and Butler are being tried together, they are not obliged to hand down the same verdict against the two accused. As the trial drew to a close in June 2012, both the prosecution and defense delivered their closing arguments. The prosecution emphasized the weight of the evidence against Pynn, while the defense reiterated their claim of his innocence and the lack of definitive proof. The judge sentenced Philip Pynn to 15 years in prison for manslaughter. The sentence included time already served, meaning he would be eligible for parole sooner than some had expected. The courtroom was a mix of relief and disappointment, reflecting the divided public opinion on the case. The story of Philip Pynn and Nick Winsor is a testament to the complexities of justice and the human consequences of crime. We hope this series will provide a comprehensive look at the case and its broader implications. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth stories and discussions. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe.